Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive? You guys sent in some really interesting stuff on personal success, and a lot of it's based on this book, The Seven Decisions.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The author, Andy Andrews, had some rough times himself, and it really got him thinking, what makes some people thrive when others struggle? So he basically went on a quest to find out.
So he dove into tons of biographies, right? Successful people from all walks of life.
Exactly. People who had faced huge challenges but still found a way to achieve incredible things. And he didn't just read about them, he actually talked to a lot of influential figures. I mean, think about it. Business leaders, celebrities, even presidents.
Wow, that's dedication. So he was looking for those common denominators, the choices that seem to make a real difference.
Right. It's like he distilled the wisdom of the ages into this framework of 7 decisions. It's not just about knowing them, though. It's about putting them into action, making them a part of how you live your life. I love that actionable wisdom. All right, so let's jump into the first one, the active decision. I am a person of action. The book really highlights how history remembers the bold, the ones who actually do things.
Totally. It's not about sitting around and thinking about stuff. It's about getting out there and making things happen. Like, think about Joshua Chamberlain, a school teacher who became a Civil War hero.
Wait, a school teacher?
Yeah, he was a professor at Burgoyne College in Maine, but when the Civil War broke out, he felt this deep need to act, so he joined the Union Army.
Wow, so this guy was literally a fish out of water.
Big time.
Yeah.
But at the Battle of Gettysburg, he ended up leading this insane uphill charge against all odds. I mean, can you imagine?
He was facing Confederate soldiers who were entrenched on higher ground. It seemed impossible.
Absolutely. But Chamberlain had this quote, I had deep within me the inability to do nothing. He knew he had to act, even though he was terrified.
That's powerful. So it's not just about taking any action. It's about that courage to act, even when you're scared or uncertain.
You got it. And the book talks about how acting, even in the face of fear, is what makes you the person on the run. That's how Andrews describes it. You attract others with your purpose and your energy, and you start creating real change.
Sort of ripple effect.
Exactly. And think about Stan Lee, the comic book legend. He faced rejection after rejection, but he just kept pushing his ideas. That's what led him to create those iconic characters that have inspired so many people.
He definitely wasn't afraid to take action. And, I think we can all relate to that feeling of knowing we needed to do something, but letting fear hold us back.
Oh, for sure. It's so easy to get stuck in that cycle of overthinking and inaction. This decision is a call to break free from that, to be the person we want to be, not the person fear tells us to be.
Absolutely. Now, that idea of taking charge of your life, that leads us right into the next decision, right? The responsible decision.
Yeah.
The buck stops here.
You got it. This one's all about taking radical responsibility for your life, for your past, for your choices. No more blaming others or circumstances.
It's about owning your actions, the good and the bad.
It's interesting because Andrews uses his own story to really illustrate this. He went through some incredibly tough times, lost both his parents in a short span, ended up homeless, even contemplated suicide. But it was during that dark period that he found solace in reading biographies of successful people.
He was looking for answers, for a way out of that despair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he noticed this pattern. The people who succeeded didn't waste time blaming others. They took responsibility for their choices in their lives, even the painful parts.
So it's about recognizing that you have the power to choose how you respond to things, even to really difficult experiences.
Right. Think about a time when you faced a major setback. Did you blame others, or did you look for what you could learn from the experience? That difference in mindset can make all the difference in whether you stay stuck or move forward.
The book uses this great example from history, George Washington. After a devastating defeat early in his military career, he could have easily made excuses.
But he didn't. He took responsibility, learned from his mistakes, adapted his tactics, and ultimately led the Continental Army to victory.
So it's about having that growth mindset, seeing setbacks as opportunities to learn and improve.
Exactly. It's realizing that you're not a victim of your circumstances, you're the architect of your own life.
I love that. So I want you to ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's keeping you stuck? What past experiences, regrets, or blame are you clinging to? This decision challenges us to let go of that baggage and embrace the freedom that comes with choosing differently.
And, it's that act of choosing differently, that ability to let go of blame and step into your power that unlocks your potential to create the life you truly want.
It's like you're not defined by your past, you're empowered by it.
Exactly. And if you connect this back to the active decision, it's not just about doing something. It's about acting with intention, knowing that your choices have consequences, and owning those consequences.
So it's about taking action with responsibility.
Right. It's recognizing that your actions create ripples. You're responsible for the waves you send out.
Which brings us to the next decision, the guided decision. I will seek wisdom. This one's all about surrounding yourself with positive influences and learning from others.
It's acknowledging that you don't have all the answers,
Yeah.
and there's immense value in learning from people who've been there, done that.
Have you ever heard of Bob Hope, the comedian? He almost gave up on his career early on because he was so discouraged. But he kept seeking advice, refining his act, and he eventually achieved global fame.
It's a great example of how mentors and advisors can play such a crucial role in helping you navigate challenges and ultimately succeed.
It's not just about mentors, though, right? It's also about being mindful of the information you consume and the people you let into your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are constantly being influenced, whether you realize it or not. You need to be intentional about who and what shapes your thoughts and beliefs.
So it's like curating your own personal board of advisors.
Exactly. Surrounding yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and support your growth.
Now, there's this interesting twist in this decision. Seeking wisdom also means being of service to others. It might seem counterintuitive, but the book talks about being generous with your time, your knowledge, your resources.
It's about recognizing that helping others often brings unexpected benefits, not necessarily material things, but, insights, connections, opportunities to learn and grow.
It's like that saying, the more you give, the more you get.
Exactly. And when you're focused on giving back, on making a positive impact, you naturally attract more wisdom and opportunities into your life.
Okay, so we've got action, responsibility, seeking wisdom. Now let's talk about commitment. That's where the decided heart comes in. My destiny is assured. It's about unwavering commitment to your chosen path, even when things get tough.
It's about having that inner fire, that unshakable belief in your dreams that keeps you going when you face setbacks, criticism, doubt.
The book uses a pretty intense example to illustrate this. Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistador. He literally burned his ships when he arrived in Mexico.
Talk about commitment.
He completely eliminated any possibility of retreat, forcing his men to either conquer or perish. He burned those mental boats that kept them clinging to safety and comfort.
Most of us aren't going to literally burn ships, of course.
Yeah.
But the principle applies. What are those subtle fears, those doubts, those boats that we're holding on to that keep us from fully committing to our dreams? This decision challenges us to face those fears head on.
To burn those mental boats that are holding us back.
Exactly. And it's not just about overcoming fear, it's about being resilient, especially in the face of rejection. The book talks about Joan Rivers, the pioneering female comedian. She faced years of no's before she finally broke through.
It's easy to get discouraged when you're constantly being told you're not good enough.
Oh, absolutely. But Joan's story shows us that unwavering belief in yourself is essential for breaking through barriers and achieving your dreams. It's about knowing your worth, even when others don't see it yet.
And that leads us perfectly to the next decision, which is, in many ways, the foundation of all the 7 decisions, the persistent decision. I will persist without exception.
You're absolutely right. Without persistence, the other decisions simply fall apart. It's the engine that keeps you moving towards your goals, no matter what obstacles you encounter.
It's about that never give up attitude, that commitment to keep going even when it gets tough.
The book shares this amazing story about the author's own journey to get his book published. He got to get this 51 rejections before finding a publisher who believed in his work.
51. That's incredible. I can't even imagine the resilience it took to keep going after that much rejection.
He persisted because he truly believed in his message, and ultimately that belief paid off. It's a powerful reminder to never give up on your dreams, even when the whole world seems to be telling you to quit.
It's about trusting your gut, knowing your worth, and refusing to let setbacks define you.
And speaking of never giving up, the book also talks about Eric Weihenmayer, the blind climber who conquered Mount Everest.
Oh, wow. Talk about an inspiring example of persistence.
Eric's story shows that even seemingly impossible obstacles can be overcome with determination and a refusal to accept limitations.
So I want you to think about this. What are you passionate about that you've let slide? What dreams have you put on hold because of setbacks or discouragement? This decision challenges us to rekindle that passion and take consistent action towards what truly matters.
It's about understanding that success rarely follows a straight line. There will be detours, roadblocks, unexpected challenges. But it's your persistence, your unwavering commitment that will determine your ultimate success.
And sometimes we just need that reminder to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when we don't feel like it.
It's about those small, consistent actions, those little wins that eventually add up to something truly remarkable.
It's not always about giant leaps. It's about those consistent steps forward, those little moments of courage and commitment that make all the difference.
You're so right. And speaking of choosing differently, that takes us to a decision that might seem a little unexpected. The happy decision. Today, I will choose to be happy.
Okay, so this one's all about choosing happiness as a deliberate act, not something that depends on external circumstances.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose your attitude, your mindset, no matter what's happening around you.
And it's not about ignoring life's challenges, right? It's about choosing to face those challenges with a more positive outlook.
You got it. It's about realizing that your perspective has a huge impact on how you experience life.
And this is where the whole idea of conditioning comes in. Andrews talks about how we're often conditioned to focus on the negative, to dwell on problems and shortcomings. Remember those stupid warnings we talked about?
The ones you find on everyday products that are so obvious or ridiculous, they make you laugh.
Yeah, like warning you not to drink bleach or not to iron your clothes while you're wearing them.
He uses those examples to illustrate how silly some of our conditioned thinking can be.
And how much we operate on autopilot, accepting those negative thoughts and limiting beliefs without questioning them.
Exactly. The happy decision challenges you to break free from that and choose more empowering perspective.
It's about realizing you have the power to choose your thoughts. And your thoughts ultimately create your reality.
It's like you can't always control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond to it.
And I think sometimes we forget how contagious happiness is. When you choose to be happy, you lift yourself up and everyone around you as well.
Oh, absolutely. It's like this ripple effect, spreading positivity
Yeah.
and making the world a little bit brighter.
The book also talks about gratitude being a key ingredient of happiness. Andrews encourages us to cultivate a grateful spirit, a habit of appreciating the good things in our lives, even when things are tough.
And that doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to focus on what you're grateful for, even in the midst of difficulties. Like being grateful for a flat tire because it meant you weren't in an accident.
Or being grateful for a rainy day because it gives you a chance to relax and recharge.
Exactly. It's about finding those silver linings, those moments of joy and appreciation, even in the most ordinary or challenging situations.
And it's not just some feel-good concept. There's actually a lot of research showing that gratitude can have a profound impact on your well-being, both mentally and physically.
Oh, absolutely. Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly experience less stress and anxiety, more resilience, better sleep, and even have stronger immune systems.
It's incredible how something as simple as focusing on what you're grateful for can have such a powerful impact on your life.
And that practice of gratitude ties in beautifully with the compassionate decision, which is all about forgiveness and letting go of anger and resentment.
When you cultivate a grateful spirit, it becomes easier to forgive because you start to see the bigger picture. You realize everyone's on their own journey, and we all make mistakes.
And remember, forgiveness isn't about condoning hurtful actions. It's about releasing the hold those actions have on you. It's about choosing to free yourself from the burden of anger and resentment.
It's like giving yourself permission to let go of the past and move forward.
Exactly. It's a gift you give yourself, a choice you make for your own well-being.
And the book makes a point of saying that forgiveness is a decision, not an emotion. It's a choice you make even when you don't feel like it.
And that choice can be incredibly difficult, especially when you've been deeply hurt. But the book argues that it's absolutely essential for your own happiness and peace of mind.
Andrews uses this really powerful analogy to describe this. He talks about two wolves fighting inside you, one representing anger, resentment, negativity, and the other representing forgiveness, compassion, and peace.
And he says the wolf that wins is the one you feed.
It's such a great reminder that we have the power to choose which thoughts and emotions we cultivate, and those choices directly affect our experience of life.
Absolutely. We can choose to dwell in anger and resentment, or we can choose to cultivate forgiveness and compassion.
And the book emphasizes that forgiving yourself is just as important as forgiving others. We're often our own worst critics.
Oh, totally. And Andrews encourages us to let go of that self-judgment and embrace self-compassion. He reminds us that we are worthy of forgiveness, even when we feel like we've messed up.
It's about recognizing that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and that's okay.
It's about giving yourself that same grace and understanding that you would offer to someone you love.
So, as we continue our deep dive into the 7 decisions, I want to ask you, what's resonating with you the most so far? Which decision speaks to you? Which principle are you ready to put into practice?
Remember, these decisions are all connected. They work together to create a framework for growth and lasting success.
And the true power comes in applying them, right? It's not enough to just understand these principles. You have to integrate them into your life, make them a habit, a way of living.
Exactly. These decisions aren't just things you read about, they're tools you can use to build the life you want.
And that takes us to the last decision, which asks a very profound question. All right, let's jump back in. It's pretty cool how these decisions all connect, right? Like pieces of a puzzle, creating this roadmap for personal growth. We talked about action, responsibility, seeking wisdom, commitment, and those all play into the persistent decision, right? As we were saying before, persistence is the key to unlocking the power of all 7.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth digging a little deeper into this whole idea of persistence. The book makes it clear that it's not about just pushing through, gritting your teeth no matter what. It's about understanding that consistent, focused action is what really makes a difference.
So it's not brute force, it's more about strategy and intention.
Exactly. Andrews uses this analogy of a rainmaker to illustrate this point. He tells a story about Aboriginal rainmakers who were known for their ability to always bring the rain.
I think I've heard of this. Their secret wasn't some magical dance or ritual, but their unwavering belief that the rain would come. They just kept dancing, kept focusing their energy until it finally rained.
Yeah, it's such a powerful image, right? It's a metaphor for how we should approach our goals. We need that unshakable belief that we can achieve what we set out to do, and we need to keep taking action, even when we don't see results right away.
The book also talks about focusing on results, not just activity. It's not about being busy just for the sake of being busy. It's about making sure that what you're doing is actually moving you closer to your goals.
That's where strategic planning comes in. Andrews talks about creating what he calls a private chamber for results, a dedicated time and space where you can really hone in on your goals without distractions.
So it's like creating a sanctuary for your dreams, a place where you can shut out the noise of the world and reconnect with your inner drive.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a literal room. It could be a mental space, a ritual you create, a specific time of day you set aside for focusing on your goals.
The key is to make it a regular practice, a habit that helps you stay on track and keep moving forward.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff that we lose sight of the bigger picture. This decision reminds us to step back, reconnect with our goals, and make sure our actions are aligned with what we want to achieve.
So speaking of what we want to achieve, that brings us to the happy decision. It might sound a little strange, but the book argues that choosing happiness is a crucial part of achieving success.
And remember, Andrews isn't talking about some superficial, pretend everything's perfect kind of happiness. He's talking about a deeper sense of joy and contentment that comes from living in alignment with your values and pursuing your passions.
It's not about ignoring life's challenges. It's about choosing to face those challenges with a positive attitude, recognizing that your perspective has a huge impact on your experience.
Right. And this is where that whole idea of conditioning comes in again. Andrews explains how we're often conditioned, almost programmed, to focus on the negative, to get stuck dwelling on problems and what's wrong. You know, like those stupid warnings we were talking about earlier.
Oh, yeah, the ones you find on everyday products that are just so obvious or absurd, they make you laugh.
He uses those warnings to point out how ridiculous some of our conditioned thinking can be.
And how often we just operate on autopilot, accepting those negative thoughts and limiting beliefs without even realizing it.
Exactly. The happy decision challenges us to break free from that conditioning and choose a more empowering perspective.
It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose your thoughts, and those thoughts ultimately create your reality.
There's even research showing that simple acts of gratitude, like writing down 3 things you're thankful for each day, can actually rewire your brain for happiness.
That's wild. It makes you realize how much power we have over our own minds.
Right. We can choose to focus on what's wrong, or we can choose to focus on what's right.
And I think we often underestimate how contagious happiness can be. When you choose to be happy, you're not only lifting yourself up, but you're also lifting up those around you.
Oh, absolutely. It creates this ripple effect of positivity, making the world a little brighter, a little more joyful.
The book talks about gratitude being a big part of this. Anders encourages developing what he calls a grateful spirit, a habit of appreciating the good things in your life no matter what's going on.
And that doesn't mean ignoring the challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about actively looking for things to be grateful for, even in the midst of difficulties. Like, be grateful for paying taxes because it means you're earning money. Be grateful for a messy house after a party because it means you are surrounded by friends.
It's about finding those silver linings, those little sparks of joy, even in the most ordinary or challenging situations.
Exactly. And this grateful spirit isn't just some fluffy feel-good concept. There's actually a ton of research that shows gratitude can have a really significant impact on your well-being, both mentally and physically.
It's crazy how powerful something as simple as focusing on what you're grateful for can be.
Studies have shown that people who practice gratitude regularly tend to experience less stress and anxiety. They're more resilient, sleep better, and might even have stronger immune systems.
It's amazing how much of a difference a simple shift in perspective can make.
And this whole idea of gratitude ties in beautifully with the compassionate decision, which is all about forgiveness, letting go of anger and resentment.
Yeah, when you're in that grateful state of mind, it becomes easier to forgive because you start to see the bigger picture. You realize that everyone's on their own journey, everyone makes mistakes, and holding on to anger and resentment only hurts you in the end.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
important to remember that forgiveness isn't about saying that what someone did to you is okay. It's about releasing the power that those actions, those hurts have over you. It's about choosing to free yourself from that burden.
The book emphasizes that forgiveness is a decision, not an emotion. It's a choice you make, even when every fiber of your being is telling you not to.
And that choice can be incredibly difficult, especially when you've been deeply hurt. But the book argues that it's essential for your own well-being, for your own happiness and peace of mind.
Andrews uses this powerful analogy to illustrate this. He talks about two wolves fighting inside you. One represents anger, resentment, negativity, and the other represents forgiveness, compassion, and peace.
And the wolf that wins, it's the one you feed.
It's such a powerful image, right? It reminds us that we have the power to choose which thoughts and emotions we nurture, and those choices have a direct impact on how we experience life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can choose to dwell in anger and resentment, or we can choose to cultivate forgiveness and compassion. The choice is ours.
The book also stresses that forgiving yourself is just as important as forgiving others. We tend to be our own harshest critics.
Oh, for sure. And Andrews encourages us to let go of that self-judgment and embrace self-compassion. To remember that we're all human, we all make mistakes, and we're all worthy of forgiveness, even when we feel like we've messed up.
It's about giving yourself the same grace and understanding that you would offer to a loved one.
Exactly. And that act of self-forgiveness can be incredibly liberating. It frees you from the weight of guilt and shame and allows you to move forward with a clearer mind and a lighter heart.
So as we continue exploring these 7 decisions, I want to ask you, what's standing out to you the most right now? Which decision are you drawn to? Which principle are you most ready to put into practice?
And remember, these decisions are all connected. They work together to create this powerful framework for growth and lasting success.
And the true power lies in putting them into action, right? It's not enough to just understand these principles intellectually. We have to integrate them into our lives, make them a habit, a way of living.
Absolutely. These aren't just abstract ideas. They're practical tools we can use to build the life we want, the life we deserve. And that brings us to the last decision, which prompts us to ask a very profound question.
So this last decision, it asks, do you really matter? It sounds so simple, but there's a lot more to it than you might think at first.
It really does go deep. The book tells this incredible story about Norman Borlaug, the guy who won the Nobel Peace Prize for his work on high-yield wheat varieties.
Wait, the guy who helped prevent famine in developing countries?
That's the one. He's actually credited with saving over 1 billion lives. But Andrews makes this really interesting point. But also, Borlaug's success wouldn't have been possible without the vision and support of other people, like Henry Wallace, who was vice president under FDR.
Oh, wow. So it's like a chain reaction of positive influence.
Exactly. Wallace was a huge proponent of agricultural research. He was instrumental in setting up this research station in Mexico to develop crops for harsh climates, and he was the one who hired Borlaug to lead the project.
So without Wallace, Borlaug's work might never have gotten off the ground.
Probably not. And then Andrews takes it even further back, tracing this line of influence all the way to George Washington Carver, the brilliant agricultural scientist and inventor.
Wow. So Borlaug's work was built on the foundation laid by Carver decades earlier.
Exactly. Carver's work with peanuts, sweet potatoes, and other crops not only revolutionized agriculture in the South, but it also inspired generations of scientists, including Borlaug.
It's amazing how those ripples of influence spread out over time.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it all started with this incredible act of kindness. During the Civil War, this farmer named Moses, who was against slavery, rescued a young boy named George from Quantrill's raiders. That boy grew up to be George Washington Carver.
It's incredible to think about how one small act of compassion, of standing up for what's right, can have such a profound impact across generations.
It really makes you think about the power of our choices, both big and small.
Mhm.
We might not always see the full impact of our actions, but they matter. We matter.
And it all circles back to those 7 decisions. Choosing to be a person of action, taking responsibility for our choices, seeking wisdom from others and from within, having that unwavering commitment to our dreams, being persistent in the face of challenges, choosing happiness as a daily practice, and cultivating forgiveness for ourselves and others.
They're not just concepts, they're tools we can use to create a life of meaning and purpose, a life that makes a difference.
They're a roadmap for becoming the best versions of ourselves.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm struck by how powerful even small changes can be. If each of us took just one of these decisions and really committed to it, imagine the ripple effect that would create.
It's exciting to think about, right? It all starts with that choice, the decision to step up and become the person you were meant to be.
So I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about everything we've talked about today. What one choice could you make right now that would create a real lasting difference in your life? Maybe it's connected to one of the 7 decisions, or maybe it's something entirely different. Whatever it is, take a moment to really consider it. Write it down, commit to it, and then take action.
Don't underestimate the power of that one choice, that one step. It could change everything.
Remember, you are unique. There's no one else quite like you, and there never will be. Celebrate that, embrace it, and use it to make your mark on the world.
That's it for our deep dive today. We hope you found it inspiring and are ready to take action. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep making choices that create a life you love.